Hello, this is Unlimited Splash, where we get better at Magic together through a new draft every day. And today, if you are serious about limited improvement, then I think I have a very special video for you. A few days ago, I posted this video of me trying to qualify for the Arena Limited Championship. And some commenters mentioned that it would be really cool to see a breakdown and analysis of what went right in the draft, what went wrong, and what other decisions I could have made. So shout out to you, alecwithpen and Alexandra Adams. Thanks for the feedback, and that's exactly what I want to take on today. I do think that if you want to improve at Magic, you can't just play games. You have to talk to people about your games. You should have people ideally who are better than you at drafting, people who are maybe not quite as good, and people who are similar strength. It's really valuable to get those three different perspectives to talk through your experiences with. And you also need to do self-study, where you go back and look at decisions that you made to specifically analyze whether they paid off or not. And a draft is rich with decision after decision after decision, together with some pretty noisy payoff for whether those decisions were good or not. So this is going to be the self-study session to complement all of the play videos that I upload. I'm going to go back through my 3 runs of the Arena Limited Champ Qualifier, and I'm going to build the deck that I could have had, and we're going to compare it to the deck that I had. So let's jump into the first one. This draft started off with a pretty uncontroversial pick. I don't know about you all, but I've been having this bug with 17 lands where it doesn't show me the rest of the pack for pack 1, pick 1. But I'll be honest, this is pretty much how I saw this pack, Gloom Ripper and nothing else matters. And I do think that was appropriate. There are very few cards that you would just take over Gloom Ripper in a pack 1, pick 1, especially at the common or uncommon level. Pick 2 was already a decision point, and we can immediately start hypothesizing about what would have happened in the road not traveled. My thinking for Mutable Explorer was that it goes with Gloom Ripper. It is a changeling, and it makes Mutavault, which is also a changeling. So it's good for typal decks. Another good thing about Mutable Explorer is that it immediately makes a tapped land. If you compare this to the Changeling Wayfinder, I actually think Mutable Explorer has some advantages. It puts 2 shapeshifters in play. It also immediately puts the land into play. So you don't have to spend a turn playing the land the way that you do with Changeling Wayfinder. The disadvantage is Mutable Explorer's body is smaller, although Mutavault's body is bigger. And on the other hand, the land is colorless. And I guess this doesn't matter so much, but it doesn't thin your deck at all by taking a land out of it. But all in all, I actually think Mutable Explorer is probably a better card than Changeling Wayfinder. Oh, it also has a color for Vivid. That could matter in some cases. Now, I will say in the win rate statistics, if you look at 17lands.com and you look at where the Mutable Explorer lands, it has like a pretty bad win rate. I think it's lower than Changeling Wayfinder. Oh, maybe it's similar to Changeling Wayfinder. Okay, this actually agrees with me that it's a tiny bit better. I think among top players, though, it's actually flipped. So I kind of like it. I mean, I tend to think it's maybe not performing well because maybe people are over prioritizing it in the draft. Probably it's picked earlier than it should be. And by the way, I'm going deep. This is a video for people who want to go deep. This is an improvers video. If you just want to see some fun drafts, just go ahead and click on the videos in the description where I am actually playing the drafts. This is for let's break it down and analyze. Okay, but suppose that you disagree with me about the Mutable Explorer. You say the ramp doesn't matter, the 2 elves don't matter, it's not that good a card in the first place. I can actually believe some of that. So what else would I take? It was kind of funny, and I commented on this at the time. There are 3 Vivid cards in this pack, none of them very good. These are all like pretty mediocre Vivid cards. I think Shimmer Creep is probably the best. Kithkeeper, I think, is fine in sealed. I heard Paul Cheon talking about this recently, that he doesn't mind playing it in sealed. I would tend to agree. Like, if you're scrapping for win conditions, Kithkeeper is fine, but it's definitely a below replacement uncommon in draft. I don't think a lot of people would argue with that. I think that Glenalendra Guardian is probably the pick. I mean, if you wanted to stick with green cards, you could also go for the Mist Meadow Council, or, you know, stick with like a green stats kind of a plan that Gloom Ripper would tend to go together with. But this is for Kithkin, and Gloom Ripper is for elves, and that really does matter. I don't think you're happy to second pick a Mist Meadow Council after you first picked a Gloom Ripper. So I'm maybe beating around the bush a little here. I think the pretty obvious other card to take is Glenalendra Guardian, and that's what I was between in this pick. I'll be honest, I probably lean towards the Mutable Explorer because it could go in the same deck as Gloom Ripper, and Gloom Ripper is such a bomb. I'm kind of staking a claim and doing this metagame thing of, if I'm going to be elves, I have to fight for elves from pack 1, pick 1, right? Because everyone enters the draft probably in the position of wanting to be elves. So I didn't really want to just immediately jump to Dimir and not reward the Gloom Ripper or give it proper support. But let's suppose that I did that. So I'm going to start building an alternate pick pool on the right-hand window here. Okay, so let's suppose I took the Glenelendra Guardian, and let's go to the next pick. I will say, by the way, there is something a little bit fraught in this exercise. I'm going to be building an alternate draft, but obviously what you pick affects what everyone else at the table picks. So it's not like I can just look at these packs and pretend they're unaffected by my decisions. If I pick differently in pack 1, then the cards I see in pack 2 are going to be different, and then the cards I see in pack 3 are going to be different. That's just a blanket caveat for this video. We could make some broad hypotheses about how that would change things, but I want to get as specific as possible. And so let's just assume that the packs are fixed. Okay. So in this pack, I immediately speculated on Cinder Strike after taking my Mutable Explorer. I think that was a good decision. I mean, my deck maybe could have used a little bit more power in the end, like a Stoic Grove Guide or a Prideful Feastling. But I think that would be pretty bizarre to just immediately start taking those pack 1, pick 3. So I don't regret the Cinder Strike here. I maybe also was downweighting the removal, common level removal, to be honest, like a little bit lower than I should have. I think it's more plentiful in your average Premier draft, so I'm used to picking it a little bit lower. I think people in general, this is a position that I have, people in general, I think, pick removal a little bit higher than they should, especially 4 mana spot removal in Contemporary Limited. It's okay, but people treat it like it's almost a bomb quality card. The average last CNAT is pick 3, and its game in hand win rate is below average. If you don't know what that means people are picking it on average around pick 3 to pick 4. So this would be when people would start picking it, but its game in hand win rate is not actually improving the number of wins that you have, compared to when you don't see this card. So that's like a sign that a card is overdrafted, right? So the other option, though, like just for argument's sake, I think I'm happy with the Cinder Strike here. But let's suppose I went Gloom Ripper into Glenelendra Guardian. Honestly, I would probably just still take Cinder Strike. But you could also imagine if I just said, hey, Catharsis is like a big splashy mythic. Maybe we can do something with that. So for argument's sake, to get a different pool and run it up against what I actually did, let's imagine that I had picked the Catharsis. All right, so now we're starting with a very speculative deck. This just makes my heart happy to look at a first 3 picks and be like, okay, you have a rare, and a mythic. Honestly, that's more my style of drafting than what I did. And it's very possible, like one possible outcome of this could be, look, I love splashing. I named my channel Unlimited Splash. I love playing value cards, high value cards, and playing build-arounds. So maybe I should just be more myself in these competitive events. I'm very open to that possibility. Morkian size, it's kind of hard though to look at this pack and be like, yeah, I was on the wrong track. I mean, you're getting pack 1, pick 4 Morkian size. Morkian size, again, we don't want to just like, I haven't said this yet, so let me be very clear about it. We don't want to take the game in hand win rate or just any of these simple stats that are online to be, the absolute truth about a card. I definitely have my differences from those very often, but Morkian's Eyes is so high up there, it's really hard to argue with it. I'm just so happy to see Morkian's Eyes here. It strongly suggests nobody else is in Elves, unless someone just took a Champion of the Perfect. And even then, they're probably wondering, did I just put someone into Elves by passing a Morkian's Eyes pick 3, right? So I consider this good validation that I was on the right track. But again, just for argument's sake, suppose you picked Gloom Ripper, Glenelendra Guardian into Catharsis, and then you see this pack. What are you going to do? Probably I'm going to lean back green and take the Morkian size, to be honest, and be like, okay, that's a strong signal that Elves is open. But just to have a very different experience to compare what we did against, let's take the next best card or the next most appealing card in the pack, which is definitely Shine Striker. I love Shine Striker. If Morkian size weren't in here, and I had taken these 3 cards first, I would be like really happy to see a Shine Striker. So let's just take the Shine Striker and see how it unfolds if we did that. Okay, then we go to this pack. Now, remember what I said about you should talk to people about your analysis and see what they think? Well, one friend who looked over my draft log said this was an area where they disagreed with me, that picking Virulent Emissary over Assert Perfection, they would have done the other one. They would have taken Assert Perfection instead of Virulent Emissary. I'm very pro 1-drop. If there's a strong 1-drop, It takes a lot for me not to pick it, but I can totally see the reasoning here that I did end up light on removal. This might have killed the Maryland that eventually ended up killing me, so very possible I was supposed to take the Assert Perfection here. Anyways, if I'm looking at this pack and I've started off on this road and just passed a Morkan size, what am I going to do here? Maybe take Flamekin Guildweaver, Puka's Eye. Maybe I'm just taking the Assert Perfection. Honestly, I don't want to like go to such an extreme to make a different pool as to be ridiculous. I think in any setup here, if I see an Assert Perfection compared to like Flamekin Guildweaver, I'm probably going to take the Bite Spell. The Bite Spell just turns out to be really good in this set. So, and also, even with this setup, I'm sure I would still be looking for a way to play enough density of elves to have Gloomripper still be castable and good. So let's go ahead and speculate on that Assert Perfection, even in our hypothetical draft. All right, next pick, we would get, I think, a nice little reward for our splashing. I remember in my draft, I commented on how this was an out-of-place explosive prodigy. So I think I would take that no contest here. Pick 7. Honestly, I might go with Hovel Hurler. The person who beat me game 1 of this draft was playing such a cool Vivid deck with double Hovel Hurler, looping Shine Strikers, all that kind of thing. Might have tried to go in that direction. Maybe Gristle Glutton in the interest of having a good curve. Midnight Tilling again reassured me that Elves is open, so here I would probably be feeling some sadness about having passed Morkan's Eyes, the 1/1 Death Touching Elf, passing a Midnight Tilling, but let's say that I just went for the Hovel Hurler, getting some power in my deck in the same color scheme as Catharsis, passing a Gristle Glutton, which is a 2-drop, but we don't really know what colors we're in anyways. This pack is like pretty empty. I don't know, maybe I would take like Aquatex Defenses. Then Flamekin Guildweaver would be a really nice find here. Actually, this pack would have really reassured me if I were not elves. Like Foraging Wickermaw, Puka's Eye, Flaring Cinder, these are 5 Vivid cards essentially. Flamekin Guildweaver is more of an Elementals card maybe, but look, it makes a treasure. It's clearly like meant to facilitate these splashy decks. So I would be really happy with this. I would be really torn. I would have considered this a nice confirmation that I went in the correct direction, whereas in my draft, I considered it a totally blank pack and maybe a bit of punishment. So let's put the Flamekin Guildweaver in the deck, I think. Pick 10, Shimmer Creep Wheels, which makes you think, and like Wildvine Pummeler. So that kind of makes you think, hey, maybe Vivid is good. I haven't seen any reasons to be black other than the Scarblade Scout, which I'm not splashing. So maybe I would be hesitant about taking the black card, but I think that's probably where my mind would be at. Pick 11, maybe a Gristle Glutton, maybe Thirst for Identity, probably Gristle Glutton. It's just a 2-drop. And red looks like a plausible color for us. Pick 12. Sure, Bramble. No, I would probably take the Silver Gill Peddler. And then finally, Puka's Eye, really nice card to get back if you're in this like really messy Vivid situation. So sure, let's take that one. Now, as we go to pack 2, we should think about what effect our caveat is going to have. The fact that we didn't actually make these picks, what effect would that have on pack 2? If we had made these picks pack 1, there would be less green, blue, Vividy stuff coming. There would be more green and blue Vividy stuff coming around pack 2, right? That would make this deck stronger in comparison to the Elves deck. In reality, we made the Elves deck stronger by cutting the Elf stuff pack 2. So this exercise will probably slightly understate how good the alternate deck would be compared to the actual deck that we had. Let's just keep that in mind. On to pack 2. Pack 2, I would have been pretty disappointed probably if I opened this Tristan's Command. I actually don't know. I probably would want to take it. I guess in this version of events, I saw very little reason to be green, which is kind of true in the real event. But if I passed on the Morkan's Eyes and the Virulent Emissary, but I took the Assert Perfection, you know, I didn't get that much green pack 1. I guess that's part of what this exercise is showing me. Then maybe I wouldn't want to take Tristan's Command because I'm very uncertain about black and I'm uncertain about green. But on the other hand, I think I would probably have talked myself into taking it. The alternative is Shine Striker. I guess Wonderwine Farewell is good, Assert Perfection's good, but Tristan's Command is on another level. It's not as good in a non-elf deck. I mean, I didn't have the Morkan's Eyes. Tristan's Command is an elf, so up to your Morkan's Eyes count. You can copy Morkan's Eyes with Tristan's Command. You can copy Gloomripper with it. You know, it does have some elf stuff going on, but it's also just a good card in raw terms. Bringing back 2 creatures and destroying a creature is like really, really strong stuff already. So with that in mind, I mean, the whole point of playing a Vivid deck is that you do get to play your bombs. So I think I probably would, in this setup, take Tristan's Command. I would be really confused about what my colors are, though, at this point. It's looking like a mess. So sad to pass on the Shine Striker, but I think that's what I would do in that situation. In the real event, I took this Spry and Mighty, and if you go back and watch my video, you can see me like talking about how terrible. I mean, Spry and Mighty is like totally feast or famine. It's a terrible card or it's a great card. It's rarely an okay card. And so it averages out to being okay. But I don't really like admitting this kind of very high variance stuff into my deck, to be honest, unless I'm really building around it. Like you have some Dorans and stuff going on. So I took it purely because this pack sucked for me. Like I had nothing in here. Honestly, in the end, I don't know, maybe Heirloom Ante would have been the best pick. Maybe Stalactite Dagger. I don't know. Like it's hard to see how I don't take Spry and Mighty here. In this version of the deck on the right here, what do I take? I think in this version of the deck, I'm kind of narrowing in on like a blue-red situation. Maybe I'm playing the Catharsis in red, maybe. And we're trying to decide if maybe we're playing Tristan's Command on the splash. You know what? I'm already regretting my fake pick of Tristan's Command instead of Shine Striker. I want to do over. Let's suppose I took the Shine Striker. Like, how are we supposed to fit this deck together? It doesn't really make sense. I'm going to go back and make Shine Striker my pick from the last pick. The advantage of a fake draft is that you can do that kind of thing. And now I think maybe I'm just going to take another Silvergill Peddler. Like, I don't want to play Feisty Spikeling. It is a 2-drop, but it's such a bad 2-drop. I guess I'm not married to red. Could I end up being blue-white? That's possible. But let's just say Silvergill Peddler. It's just like a functional card. Very, very weak pack. I don't know, maybe Wildvine Pummeler and just really lean into Vivid. Let me know what you would do here. Very, very weak pack. Here, I considered Dawnhand Eulogist a really nice reward for just bullying everybody out of elves. And I was thinking, nice, I'm getting my elf, you know, my elf payback here from cutting elves pack 1, which I think is exactly what happened. In this version, I'm very tempted by Rooftop Percher, or maybe I just go for Prisma Basher and say, you know what? I could be Teamer so easily. Forget about this Gloom Ripper. I've seen no reason to be black. I'm sure not playing Dawnhand Eulogist if I have this set up on the right. So yeah, maybe, I mean, I'm between probably Prisma Basher, Flame King Guildweaver, Rooftop Percher, and Stratosaur. I would put Stratosaur and Flame King Guildweaver for this specific deck a little bit lower because these are more like pure elemental cards. Prisma Basher is not great, but it can win games. And I'm looking for a lane to kind of lock in on. You're at pack 2, pick 3. You kind of need to start having investment in like 2+2-ish colors. So I'm going to go with the Prisma Basher and say, maybe there's a reason to be green. If I'm Vivid, I really want to be green. So let's see if maybe Teamer is a direction we can explore. Okay, so we get our Prisma Basher. On to the next pick. Now I'm feeling like maybe I just take the Lissalina Informant. Like, if I can have green 2-drops, I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, we've kind of gotten ourselves into a mess in this hypothetical draft, right? I'm trying to make the strongest alternate deck to what I actually did. But now I'm really feeling, looking at this alternate deck, like maybe I made it too weak or made some bad decisions along the way. But this does happen, right? Sometimes you have these drafts that are just train wrecks where you have like cards split across 5 different colors. You just have no idea what's going on. And when that happens, mid pack 2 or early pack 2, ideally, you have to buckle down and just try to nail down a color. Maybe it's not the color, but you're at the sort of moment of last turning back where you can still recover. If green gets cut in the next 2-3 picks, we'll still have enough opportunities to say pivot to white and make playables or pivot to red and make playables. But if we start trying like pack 2, pick 7, and we're still speculating across 4 different colors, and we get one of those colors wrong as a potential main color, it's just over. You might end up with like 18 playable cards. So I'm going to say, let's go for Lissalina Informant here. We're going to buckle down and have some discipline and just take a 2-drop. And I'm just trying to say, I want to be green at this point because it's a prime color for Vivid and you're giving me 2-drops and I have removal and I have a win con in that color. Prove me wrong. All right, so now let's see what's delivered to us in green. Well, here we get a Rhymekin Recluse. I'm not at all tempted by this Twilight Diviner. I mean, a 3/3 for 3 that surveils 2 on enter could be worse, but there's essentially no support for the second ability in Limited and Lorwyn. By the way, I think this was a miss. When I first saw it, I thought it would be a cool build around. I actually tried building around it in one of my first drafts and totally failed. Turns out it's just not supported. So I kind of wish they had added in a little bit more support for this card. But I'm all over Rhymekin Recluse for sure. I know that I want to play blue. I have double Shine Striker and Glenelentra Guardian and double Silvergill Peddler. That's my actual primary color. So I'm going to go for Rhymekin Recluse over Lissalina Informant here. Pick 6. I think the Foraging Wickermaw is exactly what I would take here in both decks, right? Not really much else going on. And by the way, this is the first time I've ever tried to do a video like this. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and comment. If you have suggestions for how to do it differently next time, I'm all ears. I've never tried doing this kind of breakdown on a video before. So let me know what you like, what you would like to have different next time, because I'm super enjoying this. I think this is a really great way to learn and grow at Magic. And I think you don't see this type of content that much. So really open and happy to hear any feedback at all, please. All right, pick 7. There's Kulrath Mystic might be the pick here. But actually, what if I go for Feed the Flames? Like, Kulrath Mystic is kind of a desperation move where it's like, I just need to have some bodies on the field. This card, you know, it can definitely push damage and win games. I played it without too much shame in some of my events, but we sort of don't really have much reason to be red here, but still, I think Feed the Flames is good enough. I mean, I would like to play this Explosive Prodigy. We don't have that much mana fixing, so that's starting to be a problem for us, but I think Feed the Flames is just kind of clearly better and better with our cards than any of the rest of this stuff. Pick 8 in this setup, I'm probably on Flaring Cinder, right? And now we're going to see the missing cards. So people took Wonderbrine Farewell. This is super interesting. I feel like I want to look at this every time after every draft. Look, it's a very like Sultai, or sorry, like Esper even-ish. Sultai maybe a little bit too. Odd. That's really interesting given that I was in Elves. Yeah, looks like someone was in Goblins for sure. Okay. But not in Merfolk. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Although someone did take Wonderbrine Farewell, so maybe the Merfolk player took that. Yeah, that's probably what happened. Anyways, the choice is the cards that aren't X'd out. And yeah, I think in both universes, I'm on Mischievous Sneakling. Nice card for Vivid, too. Pick 10, there's really nothing. Silvergill Peddler, Barblet. Maybe I take a third. Yeah, I would take a third Silvergill Peddler, right? Pick 11, happy to see Stratosaur in this hypothetical reality. I'm probably not playing Luminolisk, and Summit Sentinel, not so good. Sam Pardee had like a really great comment about this in Rough Drafts, which is a good podcast. He said, you know, 1/3s for 2 have not done very well in the last few formats. Actually, they've done quite poorly. Like, they have to be as good as like Ashling Rekindled to perform well. And he said, you know, Summit Sentinel pays you off when you die. And what is a 1/3 for 2 the worst at? Right? So that's kind of the conceptual issue with this card and why it doesn't perform so well. Wanderwine Distractor Vizanti Sentence. Sure, Wanderwine Distractor. And then an Aquatex Defenses to wrap up pack 2. Now, this is such an interesting pack 3, pick 1 for us in our hypothetical reality. So just taking stock of what we have. Rhymekin Recluse, Glenalundra Guardian, triple Silvergill Peddler. So we have a really chunky 3-drop slot and a Flaring Cinder. We're going to play the Mischievous Sneakling. We're getting pretty desperate for 2-drops. Then we have Stratosaur and double Shine Striker. So I definitely want to be splashy multicolor. I'm definitely playing Foraging Wickermaw, probably playing the Pukazai. And I think I'm cutting black at this point. I'm just going to say my black didn't really get there. I didn't get enough signals that black is open. And in the real draft, that's making me reflect on, yeah, black was actually not that open, right? I think because there was a Goblins player prioritizing a bunch of black removal and that kind of thing. So I think we're definitely in a teamer kind of a situation. And probably, yeah, I probably am playing Catharsis and Hovel Hurler if my curve can possibly support it, if only for the Vivid. But this means I do need to get into green a little bit. I need to find some reasons to be green, and I need to be able to cast green cards. What that makes me think is here, why not just take the most powerful card? Sapling Nursery is a good card. It's much worse in a Vivid 3-color deck than it is in a, I don't know, Kithkin deck where you're going to have a zillion forests and maybe you can play this card on turn 4. However, it's just a very powerful card, and if you can hack the green pips, it's good, right? So maybe now we really want Foraging Wickermaw specifically. That might be the best card for us to smooth out our multicolor pips and give us extra colors. And then Changeling Wayfinder is like a very, and add 2-drops. And then Changeling Wayfinder is like a very distant card that we also would want to prefer. But I'm taking like any Foraging Wickermaw on site at this point. So let's add in the Sapling Nursery, and we're trying to lock in on Teamer Vivid. And now look at this, Shine Striker number 3. Nothing could make my heart happier than a Shine Striker number 3. I don't even want to think about what else is in this pack. The whole point of this Road Not Traveled is to have 3 Shine Strikers. So let's go. I didn't even remember that there were 3 Shine Strikers. I thought there were 2 of them and 3 Rhymekin Recluses, but I think I had that flipped. And is this next one where, yep, speaking of Rhymekin Recluse, this was like a huge thing that popped out at me in the draft. This is really what made me want to do this alternate experiment, is seeing the 2 Rhymekin Recluses and the 3 Shine Strikers really hammered home to me that Vivid was wide open at this table. This was just an anomalous pack though. Look at this. Rhymekin Recluse, Unwelcome Sprite, which I would love to take, but I have Rhymekin Recluse a little bit higher. Even though I'm kind of clogged on 3 drops in this alternate reality, I'm still taking the Rhymekin Recluse. It's basically a 2-drop because it gets rid of their 2-drop. It's almost as if you played a 2-drop. You're like not behind anymore because you didn't play a 2-drop, right? Kind of a dangerous way of thinking, but I actually think it's kind of true. Explosive Prodigy, neck and neck with Rhymekin Recluse in my view, but I would definitely favor the Recluse, if only because it's in my primary color, right? And then Rooftop Percher is a good one. Like, you might wheel something good out of this pack. We could even play the Marrow Sky Swimmer to add to our Vivid count potentially, although double blue is going to be tricky for us. But yeah, so sad to pass on Welcome Sprite, but let's go for that Rhymekin Recluse here. In this pick, do I just take Bree actually? Because I can maybe fit the power into my deck. My mana is starting to be a problem though. I wonder if I have to take Stratosaur. It's a 2-drop. I mean, I could also take Boulder Dash, but I don't really want to splash Boulder Dash. I actually think I'm like base blue, splashing a little bit of red, and then almost splashing green, but it's going to need the double pip twice. So I kind of want to treat this as if it were my secondary color, green. So probably Stratosaur is a responsible pick. Actually, maybe Furdok Core. Now that I think about it, I'm probably on Furdok Core because my mana is actually getting to be an emergency situation here. I think I would take the Furdok Core, to be honest. It's a tough choice. I'd love to play like Reaping Willow, but I think let's go for Furdok. Not a good card, but it's medicine that sometimes you just have to swallow. I will say about this card, I thought that it would be like kind of a sleeper beater in the format, like a card where if you get into a grindy board stall, it can eventually just take over by being a 4/4. I have yet to see this card attack. I think I actually have yet to see it actually get activated in a month of playing Lorwyn. So that shows you how it just didn't line up with the format. I think this card could have been a lot better. I tend to like these 3 mana rocks a little bit more than most people. I do not like this one. It's just so sinking 4 mana into it to activate it is tough. Okay. Now I'm thrilled to see a Flamebraider. I'm all over that Flamebraider. It can smooth out my mana for Shine Striker and Prisma Basher. Perfect pick here. And this is part of what made me think, dang, maybe I like kind of missed the boat. Happy enough to see a Scarblade Scout, but yeah, I mean, Flamebraider is such a sweet one for Vivid or Elementals. Snapping that up. All right, our deck is starting to have a little bit more coherence. And then here was the really painful one. Seeing Ashling Rekindled, pack 3, pick 6. Yeah, that really hurt. That really hurt. This would have been such a reward if I took this alternate route. Also, like, we're looking at Blossom Bind and Tweeze, and I know I said I would take Foraging Wickermaw over anything, but okay, Ashling Rekindled. This card is almost mana fixing, right? It actually kind of is mana fixing straight up because it adds mana. Just with a big condition on it. Here it's between Temporal Cleansing and Tweeze. I'd probably go with Temporal Cleansing. It's just easier to cast. Although if we look at our curve, maybe let's start looking at our curve now. So ignoring mentally the black cards, I would say we can afford to have a few more 4-drops. We might even at this stage be hoping, well, there's only one more pick to see Tamifel Rhymespeaker, so we won't see the 4-drop payoffs, but still, I mean, our curve looks like it can support a Temporal Cleansing, which really doesn't even usually cost 4 mana. And kind of nice with double Rhymekin Recluse plus Temporal Cleansing. Yeah, that could be annoying. All right, pick 8. Not that much going on. Maybe just take Flaring Cinder. This was a nice reward for Elves. I feel like Elves and Elementals were both wide open in this draft, to be honest. Pick 9. I'm probably just taking Illusion Spinners. This looks really good for the deck that I built, right? Scarblade Scout and Midnight Tilling. Maybe in retrospect, I should have actually taken the Midnight Tilling over the 3rd Scarblade Scout because some card selection would have been more useful for me. But Scarblade Scout is just such a good one. I can see why I did it. Pick 10, there is, yeah, Gangly Stompling. Sure, nice Vivid card for sure. And then pick 11, we are looking at, I guess we would take Rooftop Percher. Yep. By the way, what a pick 11. I mean, this was the pack that was totally stacked, so it makes sense that all this stuff came back. Does look like maybe someone else actually did end up in the Vivid lane. I mean, maybe multiple people. Someone took Explosive Prodigy, someone took Great Forest Druid, someone even took Springleaf Drum, which may signal Merfolk. But if you're in Merfolk, wouldn't you take the Marrow Sky Swimmer? So I think there were several Vivid drafters as things turned out. And then whatever, like Burning Curiosity, Brambleback Brute, they're not making your deck. Okay, so let's clean up the alternate deck and let's look at it alongside what I actually had. First thing I'm thinking is the green is like, I did not get there on fixing. I mean, a Foraging Wickermon, I don't even want to play Furdock Core. So I'm going to get rid of the black, get rid of the black. I don't think Prisma Basher, I think Shine Striker is enough of a vivid payoff for me to be happy with that. With the double Rhymekin Recluse, Temporal Cleansing, Feed the Flames, what my deck does well, I think is going to just be if it can have okay mana and curve out. Maybe I think I cut Sapling Nursery because of double green. Gangly Stompling can get me some green for Vivid. I think Illusion Spinners doesn't get there, but I do want to play Catharsis and Hovel Hurler because of Vivid. And then I'm not going to try to hit the double green pip for Prisma Basher. This is interesting to me because part of what motivated this exercise for me is I thought that Simic was a really appealing alternate lane. Now I really don't think so. Simic did not seem to be open at all. Green was actually getting weirdly cut in our hypothetical reality. I guess in the main thing, it was like Morkan's Eyes, the triple Issylin Informants, Virulent Emissary, double Virulent Emissary, taking the Mutable Explorer, and then the fact that Tristan's Command has a green pip. That was totally enough for an elf deck. But in the Vivid version, kind of Vivid Elementals, green was not really appealing to us at any point. I think I can cut like Stratosaur, for example. I have so many expensive cards. I don't know if Catharsis is going to be worth it. Maybe I just play Hovel Hurler to get the white. Catharsis can realistically never be paid for double white. I would have to have both Furdock Core and Foraging Wickermoth. Speaking of which, now that the green is gone, we're not playing Furdock Core. And then it's probably not worth splashing for Assert Perfection. Look, I have double Rhymekin Recluse, Temporal Cleansing plus Feed the Flames. So we're looking at now 16, 20, 26 cards. So I need to make 3 more cuts. Maybe I just don't play the Rooftop Percher, actually, because I don't really have tribal synergies, and I have 3 Shine Strikers, so I already have a lot of understated flyers with 3/3 bodies. Yeah, maybe this is the deck. So the question is, which deck is better? This deck, which is what I would have gotten-ish if I drafted a different way, or what my deck ended up being, which is this elf deck. I'm really interested in what you think. Go ahead and comment. In my opinion, I think I landed in the right place. Looking at these 2 decks against each other, the deck on the right is crafted from an open lane so clearly. Like you have the Explosive Prodigy, Ashling Rekindled, you have double Rhymekin Recluse, you have good enough removal, and triple Shine Striker. I don't know how good Catharsis is, but you have like Catharsis and Hovel Hurler as ways to win. It's clearly crafted from an open lane, but there was so much bouncing around to get there that you do end up playing a bunch of clunkers. I really don't know. You just kind of have this like sort of random Sneakling. You have to play a Peddler. Maybe I could have made better cuts, but like we end up with this Wonderwine Distractor. Hovel Hurler and Catharsis are not so great. I don't really know how supported Shine Striker is going to be or how like Puka's Eye is going to play out. It's not a classic Elemental deck. We didn't see Tamifel Rhyme Speaker. We only saw 1 Flamebraider. And I think we like not even had the opportunity to pick. We literally the whole draft, we only saw 1 Flamebraider. The draft on the left, the deck on the left does have a very unbalanced curve though, right? This is not really a set where you want to be curving out radically on turn 2 in this way. Like, I'm not saying there's such a thing as too many 2/2s, but I do feel it's a little low impact. We should move these 4 cards away from the 2-drop slot. Anti-Sentence, Boxos, Embrace, Midnight Tilling, and Morkan's Eyes are not really 2-drops. Morkan's Eyes is more of like a 6-drop, honestly. Having said that, I wonder if I went a little bit overboard. If there was a moment where I could have taken a higher impact, like 3 costing, 5 costing, 6 costing creature instead of like a Scarblade Scout or a Lyssalina Informant. I don't think there was. I actually think that was kind of a weirdness of the packs. I did end up a tiny bit short on playables. Like, I don't know if Anti-Sentence really was as good as I was hoping it would be. I remember I put that in my deck after a few games in order to try to pull rares out of their hand, basically get rid of their bombs, hoping to take a Maryland out of their hand before it hits the battlefield, essentially. But yeah, feels like it was a tough table overall. So again, let me know in the comments what you would have done. In the end, I would say, in my opinion, the deck on the left went 3-2 and was really close to going 4-2, actually. It was 1 Maryland in between me and winning that last game. The deck on the right, do I think it would have gone more than 3-2? I mean, I think you would kind of have to line things up perfectly. If you go Ashling Rekindled into Rhymekin Recluse, into Flamekin Guildweaver, into Hovel Hurler, into Shine Striker, yeah, you're going to win some games. But if you go Gristle Glutton, into Silvergill Peddler, into Wanderwine Distractor, you know, and that's your curve, it's much less impressive. So feels like it was a tough draft table. I feel like I emerged with, I'm not saying like the best deck I could have, but there's not like an obvious way that I can find where I should have departed from the game plan. I feel like Elves was a good read. If I'm looking for a takeaway to improve, I think a pack like this is a good moment to focus on. It's less that I had a bad macro plan of going for Elves. I think I drafted the hard way. I was appropriately attached to the bombs that I opened. But I think I ended up with a lower impact deck than I could have. So in this pack, maybe instead of favoring the 1-drop, which is uncommon, so I thought it was a little less replaceable than Assert Perfection. It was also in my mind that it makes Assert Perfection better because it has Death Touch. So the next time I see an Assert Perfection to replace this one, it will actually be a better Assert Perfection than if I take this one and let the Death Toucher go by. But maybe I should have leaned away from that intuition and just said, you know what, I do need to end up with some higher impact cards, and maybe Safe Right Cavalry or Assert Perfection would have been better for my overall deck in the end, the way that things worked out. Here's another one where I took a 2-drop over a 4-drop. This is a much better card though, so I don't really think I could reasonably have done differently. But maybe with the Cinder Strike, a third angle that we haven't looked at could be if I had taken Explosive Prodigy here, stuck very close to green-black, but had a little bit of splashing and made a Jund deck that's just splashing for Explosive Prodigy. I actually think that might have worked out better. If you could swap Scarblade Scout out for Explosive Prodigy, play Mountain, have a Forging Wickermon one more way, or 2 more ways of getting a red pip somehow. Like here, I could have taken Forging Wickermon instead of Glisterbairn, and imagine I have a Voidmage Prodigy instead of the Scarblade Scout. Kind of weird. Scarblade Scout goes so well with Morkant's Eyes and Gloomripper. I'm really not sure that you're supposed to do that, but just for the thought experiment. Skipping ahead to pack 2, pick 4. This is the next time I took a lower impact 2-drop. Not much else in the pack. Miss Meadow Council. I don't think I'm supposed to take that. Here, maybe instead of this Lyssalina Informant. Now this is interesting, actually. I think this might be a mistake. When I took this Lyssalina Informant, I have 2 other options. One is to take Rhymekin Recluse, which is what I was thinking about, or Twilight Diviner. Those are like kind of silly, in my opinion. Like taking Rhymekin Recluse, this is a card that's good because it's a tempo card. I haven't looked at the stats on this, but I assume it's much worse on the stats. Actually, on the splash. And actually, let's look right now. So 17 lands only gives you color combinations with more than, or 500 games or more. And anytime blue was not a primary color, I think it doesn't count. It was like on the splash too little, which already tells you like people are not really doing that. It's a tempo card. So you really want to be playing it on turn 3. If you're playing it on turn 6, it's like a lot less impressive after you've had to scrounge for blue. And when people are splashing, I mean, these color combinations probably have much lower win rates as a baseline, but it really looks like, you know, if you're in blue-black and splashing, you're losing 3% on your Rhymekin Recluse's game-in-hand win rate compared to if you're just in blue-black. If you're in white-blue and splashing, it gets like 2 percentage points worse, 3 percentage points, 2.5. So yeah, I don't think it's a card that you want to splash. I think the stats agree with me. Having said all of that, what should I have done in this pack? Why not take Blight Rot? Like, I ended up a little bit short on removal. I really wanted 2 drops and playing to the board and cheaper cards, 3 great heuristics in draft. But given the deck as it was turning out, yeah, just pick up the Blight Rot. You know, maybe that's what I should have done. Prioritize Blight Rot a little bit higher when I have essentially no removal. Actually, literally only Gloom. Well, I Gloomripper and Tristan's Command. So I can totally see what I was thinking. But again, for the sake of argument, maybe go for the Blight Rot here. Where's the next time that I take a 2-drop? Here, taking the Sneakling, yeah, maybe that was a mistake. Maybe I should have just taken Gut Splitter Gang. Have more impact. Have more impact. Yeah, I'm not short on 2-drops. So why go for the 2-drop? This feels like a mistake, an outright mistake. Pack 2, pick 9, probably should have just taken the Gut Splitter Gang, had a higher impact deck as a consequence, even though it's of a different creature type. This is a big choice for impact, right? Here I could have had Sapling Nursery and I went for the 1-drop. You could easily say this is another mistake. Sapling Nursery has a lower win rate. Oh no, it actually has essentially the same exact win rate, but it's picked higher by most people. So I made the different decision than most drafters here, but they perform like identically. Good 1-drops are good. This is an incredibly pushed card, but maybe I just needed the higher impact card that can win games on its own if left to its own devices. I can understand again my thinking, like you have multiple bombs, but you know, why not add another bomb? Another card that can just kind of take over in the late game. So this pack I also kind of wish I'd done differently now. I think I was hoping to get Assert Perfections. That's why I'm taking all these Virulent Emissaries. They're part of what makes Assert Perfection really good, but it didn't end up working out that way. So it was a bet that didn't pay off, and I should pay attention to when that happens in my drafts. And, you know, basically every other pick is like this. Like, Scarblade Scout is just so much better than Wildvine Pummeler, or in this context, Mist Meadow Council, that it's clearly the pick. Maybe I could do the off-theme Eclipse Kifkin, and it can grab me a Forest if I already have 2 Forests or a Shapeshifter. I don't think that's for real. I mean, I'm looking at Gloom Ripper and Tristan's Command, which gets things out of the graveyard, and Morkant's Eyes. Scarblade Scout is just a great card, so I feel like it would have been really hard not to make this pick. Here, Iron Shield Elf over Chitinous Graspling, another opportunity to have a higher impact deck, but I'm just taking a card with so much more power. Yeah, so this was actually the last Safe Right Cavalry, or really any 4-drop or more elf that we saw in the whole draft. We saw very few of the 5/4 elf that you exile from your graveyard to make it 2/2, and we never saw another Safe Right Cavalry after this. I actually think maybe I would have gotten more wins if instead of some of those Lissalina Informants, like instead of 1 Lissalina Informant and 1 Scarblade Scout, we had seen a Safe Right Cavalry for each of those. That probably would have been passed to me, and maybe my deck would have performed a lot better. Maybe. Just be a little bit less 2-drop heavy. All right, so hopefully we learned a lot. I'd like to quickly go through one more draft, and I'm not going to do the whole rigmarole, but, you know, just try to learn from one of my other drafts as well. Okay, I'm not going to build a deck alongside the actual deck this time. This type of video turns out to be way more exhausting for me than just doing a draft. So much thinking involved. But I just pulled it up from my own video, and I can see... So I'm having the same 17 lands glitch where it doesn't show me the like full pack 1, pick 1. So I would think I was choosing between Brave Clan Stoutarm, Silvergill Mentor, and Flamebraider. You could also argue that maybe you should take the Dawnhand Eulogist, pack 1, pick 1. I clearly started off this draft with a point of view that Flamebraider was better. I would say I was definitely torn between that and Silvergill Mentor. I would say maybe I was wrong. Like, maybe I just should have gone for the Merfolk lane. In the next draft that I did, I kind of regretted this a little bit and said, like, I'm making the metagame call to go for the Wanderbrine Trapper over Eclipsed Elf. So yeah, maybe I should have gone for Silvergill Mentor, perhaps. So maybe Silvergill Mentor. Maybe the Flamebraider didn't work out great, but maybe it did. I don't know. Here, I ended up taking Flamebraider. The other option would have been like Thoughtweft Imbuer. Suppose that I had taken the Silvergill Mentor. Maybe now I'm not so married to elementals, and I've already said, okay, I passed a Flamebraider. That's the road not traveled. You should never really think that way, pack 1, pick 2. But, you know, suppose I figure like, okay, now I'm going to take Thoughtweft Imbuer, and maybe we're running like Kifkins and Merfolk against each other. So we have a Silvergill Mentor and a Thoughtweft Imbuer at this point. This pack, I guess we would be disappointed, wouldn't we? We're like running Kifkin and Merfolk against each other. Neither deck has something. Maybe I would take Reaping Willow in that situation, because it could go in either one of those 2 decks. And it's just a good card on raw power. Maybe the most powerful card in the pack. Here I took Prisma Basher because it's an elemental, and cheating out Prisma Basher on turn 4 with your with a Flamebraider is like, I mean, what could be more fun? That's Magic, right? Pick 4, I again wouldn't be, I guess maybe I would take Dundulin Weaver and think about if that can go in the Kifkin build, something like that. So you don't have to remember every card I'm talking about. We're just kind of tracking, like, is Merfolk or Kifkin really popping out at us? Actually, no, I would just take Assert Perfection for the Kifkin deck, right? So that's a piece that could go in Kifkin. Moonvigil Adherence is a piece that could go in Kifkin. This was a tough beat to take. I guess Wanderbrine Preacher as well as Tributary Vaulter kind of show us that Merfolk was a pretty open lane, maybe a bit more of an open lane. Unbury is also a powerful card. But Moonvigil Adherence is the best card in the pack. I would probably take that, and I would be pretty happy charting that Kifkin course. But now Wanderbrine Trapper would powerfully pull us back to Merfolk. So maybe I would be happier. In my actual event, I don't think I ended up playing Wanderbrine Trapper or Moonvigil Adherence, or maybe I tried. Let's just remind ourselves of what this deck ended up looking like. There's no white at all, and we couldn't afford the double green for Moonvigil Adherence because green was too small of a splash. I actually tried it in deck 2, maybe even in deck 1, and I ended up cutting it by deck 3. Right? It turns into a squawk roaster there in the middle of your screen. So did not end up going for that. So these packs are kind of flailing, and if we had gone for the Kithkin slash Merfolk game plan, then we would have actually been pretty happy here. And by the way, the white-blue dual land reassures us that Merfolk is indeed open, taking Wanderbrine Preacher and being not like over the moon about it, but it's a perfectly good card. And then I could take Temporal Cleansing or honestly Riverguard Reflexes. I don't hate this card. It's such a trick to untap something and give it +2/+2 and first strike, like when someone's attacking you. But it's also nice in an aggressive deck to be able to push more damage. Gold Metal Nomad is not even good in the Kithkin deck, so maybe I would have taken like Aquatex Defenses in this reality. And then a Swat Away, sure. Here, my plane is getting rewarded more though, right? Because you'd probably rather play the Flamekin Guildweaver than play Swat Away in a Merfolk deck. I mean, you'd rather play Flamekin Guildweaver in an Elementals deck or a Vivid deck than play Swat Away in a Merfolk deck. And I mean, Squawk Roaster is not the world's best card, but again, that plan is actually seeing more rewards. And if you look at what happened at the actual table, let's see, Crossroads Watcher and Blossoming Defense and Sundappled Celebrant all got taken out of the pack. So Kithkin, we would not be rewarded for living a Kithkin dream. And then we're at the very end of the pack. I remember this double Steam Fence, and I said I could take one and wheel the other one if I wanted to, but I decided I'd rather have Temporal Cleansing. If you're in the Merfolk deck at this point, right, because we would have taken the Wanderbrine Trapper, and probably we're looking at this from a Merfolk frame of mind now as like the best road not traveled, I'm probably still taking Temporal Cleansing. And then we would get a Meander's Guide, which I do like. Tributary Vaulter is good as well. But Endblaze Epiphany is just better. Like, I'm happier in this reality with this pick. Getting past the Endblaze Epiphany kind of reassured me that I had pushed other people out of that. I would have really good mana. I mean, I would have taken the Wanderbrine Trapper over the last Hallowed Fountain, but I would have really good mana with the Hallowed Fountain. Again, you don't need to be tracking everything. Just, I'm thinking like, is the Elementals card that I took better than the Merfolk card? Would I have been happier with this pack if I had ended up in Merfolk or Kithkin than as a Elementals Vivid player? And still, it's no. Twin Flame Travelers, awesome, awesome piece. For an Elementals deck, again, nothing in Merfolk, nothing in Kithkin, nothing that even makes me want to be any other color combination. I want Pitiless Fists. I want to be playing green when I look at that pack. Tributary Vaulter is like a fine piece for Merfolk, but I think we'd be looking at a very mediocre Merfolk deck at this point. Again, nothing for Merfolk, nothing for Kithkin. A lot for Vivid, right? Here, maybe I should have taken Chaos Spewer the way that my curve worked out, but Glister Baron was nice in the deck. I did wheel both Steam Vents, which is really funny. So yeah, I think I was in the right lane for this draft as well. And then we get a second last pick, Kalaraz Zealot, which is the ultimate reassurance. And then literally, I didn't even remember this. We got a last pick, Flamekin Guildweaver. That is the ultimate reassurance that Elementals is the correct lane. Okay, so I'm just going to stop the analysis right here. I guess let's just look at the final deck and just look at any weaknesses in it. The curve was bad, right? We would have liked more 2-drops, and we did not see a Tamifel Rhine Speaker. So let's go through the rest of this looking for, could we have gotten our curve lower at any point? Shine Striker versus Mischievous Sneakling or Gristle Glutton. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm on the side of me taking Shine Striker here. That makes a lot of sense to me. Again, you know, Changeling Wayfinder. I wonder if you could actually take Kirill, double your Glister Baron triggers, Shine Striker triggers, Colrath. There's a lot of triggers to double. You could actually quadruple your triggers. Oh, now we're talking unlimited splash. Quadruple your triggers with a Twin Flame Travelers, doubling it, and then you use Kirill to double one of the doubled triggers on a Shine Striker. Draw 15 or whatever. Yes, please. Yes, please. Okay, 15 is not a multiple of 4, but you know what I mean. Then, let's see, Flame Chain Mauler. Yeah, I probably should have just taken the Flame Chain Mauler. This is maybe a little greedy. Or maybe even Summit Sentinel at this point. But I don't know. Rooftop Percher, kind of a nice one. I did even double its trigger at one point to nerf a Morkant's Eyes. So maybe I'm still on the side of me taking the 5-drop. It is a shame that Mischievous Sneakling, which is okay, Soulbright Seeker and Unlock of Sprite are up against each other. Dang. And now we really start getting the feeling that Elves was open. Lyssolana Informant. Okay, maybe that's what I should be tracking. Look at how open elves ended up being, right? Assert Perfection, Lissalana Informant, Lissalana Dignitary versus Safe Right Cavalry, Moon Vigil Adherence. So people at some point vacated elves. But when would I have gotten that signal? This is the last thing I'm going to do. Just my last little bit of analysis. I want to go back to pack 1 and see if we should have gotten the signal that elves is open. So you start getting signals around pack 1, pick 3. No elves so far. Pack 1, pick 5. That's an elf and that's a signal, right? But I did take it. I speculated on Moon Vigil Adherence. No elves here. No elves here. Well, okay, Dawn's Light Archer, but that's not a pull into elves. Garblade's Malice, but that's not a pull into elves at all. Crossroads Watcher. Stoic Grove Guide. It's not really a signal. It's just not a good card. Guilt Leaf's Embrace. Pack 2, are there any elves that we overlooked? I mean, I opened a Safe Right Cavalry. Pick 2 a Safe Right Cavalry. Yeah, Moon Vigil Adherence is also a signal, right? But kind of. Well, they took like an uncommon and a common over this probably because there are literally 2 rares in this pack. That's an elf. Virulent Emissary, Scarblade Scout, Assert Perfection. Okay, so maybe around here, and then Pitiless Fist would go in an elf deck. Could play Chaos Spear in elves, I guess. Then the elves really peter out. What this makes me, but then you do get Safe Right Cavalry. This makes me think there was like one elves player on the other side of the table who committed like late pack 1, something like that. I don't think the signal was strong enough for me to take it, but it is interesting that as we looked at this more, we saw this through line that, hey, maybe elves was more open than I realized. But in the end, you know, my deck got 4 wins. I don't see an obvious improvement, but what did we learn from this? Both of my macro plans, at least to me, feel good. Really curious what you say in the comments. Let me know if you have a different opinion. To me, both of my macro plans feel like they were the right thing. Drafting elves in the first draft, drafting Temur Vivid in the second draft. I don't see obvious big departures, but the shape of my deck was not quite right. In the first one, it ended up very lopsided on 2 drops with no removal. In the second one, it ended up very lopsided on 4 drops with not enough removal. So I think I should be prioritizing removal more at these competitive tables. The story I tell myself about that is good drafters maybe prioritize removal even more than they should. So they're going to be taking it sooner than its win rate suggests. But that means that by the time I think it's appropriate to take removal, it's gone. So there's almost an arms race where you just have to take removal a little bit sooner than you want to. Take a mediocre removal spell over an actively good creature sometimes, because that mediocre removal spell is going to be gone from the pack before the mediocre creatures are. Okay, so that's one thing. I probably need to be higher on removal. The other thing is I got the curve wrong in both directions, in different directions between the 2 drafts, right? One was too fast, the other was too slow, I think. What that suggests to me is I'm not systematically wrong in where I'm putting my curve, but I might just be a little noisy, a little imprecise in putting together a draft deck curve. So I think maybe what I'm going to do from here on out, think a little bit more about removal and just put, is this contributing to my curve in a good way higher up in my rank order? Tell me if you see other things. Maybe you see through lines that I don't see. Really looking forward to hearing what anyone thinks, if my analysis went off the rails anywhere, or if you see things that I don't see. All right, tomorrow I'm going to be back with a chill and relaxed draft video. I've totally exhausted myself with this analysis, not to mention all the days of playing in the LCQ and playing in Arena Directs. So we're going to do a much chiller draft tomorrow. If you did enjoy this, do go ahead and click subscribe and let me know. This time, I really want to know, do you like this format? And what should I do differently the next time I do this? And until tomorrow, have tons of fun playing Magic and don't be afraid to splash.